Verse 3, then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. And he stopped, please forgive me for stopping a lot, but he didn't go up on the mountainside to preach to the people. He went up on the mountainside to talk to his disciples. And we see the people follow. Now, we don't really know for sure, but I've been there. I've been to Tiberias. I've been to that hillside. It's a great natural amphitheater. You could get tens of thousands of people there overlooking the sea. Real steep. Matter of fact, they built a church there with his disciples. The Jewish Passover feast was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, I just, they're sitting around and they're fishermen. These are regular guys. And Jesus looks, and here comes these people getting out of boats, or coming on camels or sheep, and just crowds and crowds of people are coming. And he turns to Philip, hey Phil, where are we going to get the food to feed these people? Now, he asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Now, I see humor there. I don't see this mystical, mythical guru guy and where. No. Hey, Phil, look, how are we going to feed these guys? And I can almost picture Jesus smiling, because he said, I knew what he was going to do. All right. Philip answered him, it would take more than a half year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. A half year's wages to give each one a bite, not a meal. Another of his disciples, Andrew, we'll talk about Andrew a little later, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up, here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many? If you ever notice, and especially in the New Testament, when you're reading the New Testament, something is italicized. If the italicized is in quotation marks, it's in reference to a quote from the Old Testament. If it's not, it was added for clarity, or it's not in all the manuscripts. And if you notice, how far will they go among so many? It's italicized. So it's either added for clarity, which I don't think so, or it's not in all the manuscripts, which most likely it is. And Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Chuck and I were talking about this earlier. If every time a number is given, it is only counting the men. Now, ladies, here's why. It had nothing to do with discrimination that women didn't count or children didn't count. They counted the heads of households. So there were basically, when they say there were 5,000 men there were 5,000 households there, which could have been anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20. I mean, they didn't have birth control then, and big families were a big deal, so there were a lot of people there. Verse 11, Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. And when they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, gather the pieces that are left over, and I love this, let nothing be wasted. Another lesson. So they gathered them, and they filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. And after the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, surely the prophet who is to come into the world. This is the prophet who is to come into the world. Now Jesus, knowing that they intended to make him king by force, withdrew again to the mountain by himself. And I pause here, stop here. The disciples get in the boat, they leave. Jesus is up somewhere in the mountain behind him, because that's where the mountains would have been. And the sea gets kind of rough. They're a little afraid. And, here comes Jesus, walking on the water. So that's a whole other story, but I didn't include that here. And then after they get on the other side of the Galilee, the shore of Galilee, back toward Jerusalem, they go back. And now here's where we are, verse 26. Jesus, because they were talking about the bread. They forgot to bring bread, remember? And what are we going to do? We don't have enough bread. Jesus answered, because the people wanted to make him king. Very truly I tell you, you're looking for me not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Key verse, do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him God the Father has placed the seal of his approval. When you read the scripture, I would rather it take you 10 years to get through the Bible than read it through quickly just to get through it. Instead of reading it, eat it. Muse. Stop. Look up words. It's so unbelievably rich. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will by no means ever pass away. We're going to be doing this 10,000 years from now, if time is measured at all. Number one, this is a test. He asked him only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. And, I want to park here for just a little while. God does not test us for his sake. It's always for ours. And there's a huge difference in testing and tempting. God will never tempt you, ever. He promises that. God will never tempt you. He won't tempt you to do good, nor will he tempt you to do evil. But his testing is sure. When you think about the purpose of a test, is to see what we know and don't know. Testing. The purpose of testing is learning. When we were in school and the teacher gave us a test, you know that most teachers knew the answers? They weren't asking us so that we could inform them. They were asking us so that we would know what we don't know and what we do know. So when God tests us, he's not testing us so that he could find out where are we, what do we know, what do we understand. No. He's doing that so we would know what we know, what we understand, or what we don't understand. And I think if we grasp that, and sometimes testing, there's a difference in mental testing and physical testing. I ran track when I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. Didn't do that. I went to the band after that because track was too hard. But they would test you. You had to run the 100-yard dash with a clock to see if you were fast enough to run the race. That was physically hard, and it hurt. If you had any runs, shin splints, and maybe even bicycling. You get lost. I used to race motocross, and my arms would swell up like Popeye because it was trying. It was a testing. So the testing of God Boy, grasp it. It's so we will know what we know or what we don't know, and so that we can learn by it. I take a Bible test every morning. I have a program that, like this morning was on, I forget, but I got an 80, maybe bad, because the average test was 90. And I don't like the fail test. But anyway, I'm learning what I don't know. So when God tests you, and when a testing comes, realize that it's for our sake. You ever have a bad teacher? They seem like they wanted you to fail. I've only had maybe one or two of those in my life, but like, you know, boy, what a dummy. You don't know the answer to that, Chuck? You should know that. And you know, you kind of like diminish. A good teacher, well, hey, great job, that's good. And when it's wrong, a good teacher will say, no, what do you think we should do? What's a better answer? And God does that with us. So if that's the only thing that we can get out of this lesson this morning, that when he asked Philip, hey, where are we going to get enough food to feed these people? He already knew, but he was testing Philip. Philip, where are you? You got to know where you are. And Philip, the first thing that comes to mind, it's going to take a half a year's wages to get everybody just to bite. Now, think about this. That's a pretty astute answer. I mean, Philip most likely was a mathematician. He was the statistician, you know. Oh yeah, 5,000 family, you could have probably asked Philip how many people are here. And he would say, no, 23,372, give or take two. I mean, just seeing that, he knew that. And Jesus was testing him to see where he was in his thinking. And in my opinion, where he was wasn't too bad. He's never seen, you know, Jesus a little bit later fed 3,000 people, or 4,000. And we'll talk about that right now. Number two, it's not about bread. It's not about food. It's not about housing. It's not about clothing. Watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees and that of Herod. This is Mark's gospel. And because they were discussing, did we forget bread? They're out on the boat. He just fed 5,000 people. He already fed 4,000 people. And they're on a boat. There's only 12 of them, and they forgot to bring bread. They discussed with one another and said, it's because we have no bread. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked them, why are you talking about having no bread? Excuse me. Do you still not see or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Excuse me. Do you have eyes but fail to see, and ears but fail to hear? And don't you remember when I broke 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? 12. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketful of pieces did you pick up? And they answered, 7. I could almost hear him sheepishly doing so. And he said to them, do you still not understand? It's not about the bread, and it's not about the fish, it's not about me multiplying a small amount, it's about who I am. And the point we need, if you've been walking with the Lord any amount of time and all, you've seen His mighty hand move. you've seen the equivalent of this. And it's not about the miracles. It's about the one who does the miracles, and that's Christ. Everything he did was to draw attention to who he was, not what he did. And I think it's ironic. Not ironic. It's real Christ-like. You know, he feeds 5,000 with less and picks up more. He feeds 4,000 with more and picks up less. The leftovers. The leftovers from the 5,000 were more than the leftovers from the 4,000, and yet he fed the 4,000 with more bread and fish than he fed the 5,000. We were talking earlier, you know, someone's probably been asked this more than a couple of times. Do you really believe that Noah could have got all those animals in a boat, no matter how big it was? And here's always been my pet answer. I believe God could have got them all in the thimble if he wanted to. It's not the matter. It's not what I've not. Anybody been to the Ark yet? Everyone that goes says it's just magnificent. We've not been there. Now, this is a little arrogant of me, probably. I don't care how big it is. It's irrelevant. It could have been a canoe. God wanted to put everybody in a canoe, he could. Now, it's great. I appreciate the Hobby Lobby people, the Green family. They contribute a ton of that money for that. Been to the Museum of the Bible in D.C. It's right I went there last year. Oh, look, a Bible. Wow, yeah. Look, another Bible. Man, isn't that something? Wow, look, a Bible. Number 3. Better go on. You gotta love Andrew. The church needs more Andrews. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. How far will that go among so many? I have a note here and I don't know what I'm saying. So anyway, the point with Andrew, every time you read in the scriptures of Andrew, he's bringing something or somebody to Christ. Peter, his brother, found the Messiah. Come on. James, John, I found the Messiah. Come on. The Judaizers, or Greeks, these Greeks were coming to see the Messiah. He brought them to Jesus. So every time you read Andrew, Andrew's bringing people to Christ. Oh, yeah. I have manly G. G stands for Greek. The word Andrew, or the name Andrew, means manly. So he was a manly guy. Number 4, and I think this is an important question for all of us to ask ourselves. Do we make the wrong king out of Jesus? Jesus answered, very truly I tell you, you are looking for me, not because you saw the signs performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. How do we see Jesus? Do we see him as being maybe weak instead of meek? Confusing the two. Meekness is strength under control. I love to tell this story. I had a Ferrari one summer. It wasn't mine, it was my brother's, but he let me use it for the whole summer in San Diego, California. So when I'd be going down the freeway and somebody would pass me, they knew I was letting them pass me. That's meekness. Strength under control. The ability to do more than you can do, but controlling it. And so Jesus was not weak, he was meek. He controlled his abilities and his strength. I think sometimes we see him as more demanding than benevolent. We see him at other times as cruel instead of kind. As a supplier of a need meter, of a blesser, as a go-to bank. And I think the best way we'll know what kind of king we make of him is how we pray. I don't know about you, but most of my prayers is he's a supplier king. He's a need-meeting king. He's a helper king. He's a healing king. When I think we need to see him as Lord God Almighty, period. We need to worship him because he's God. He's the ruler of the universe. He's the creator of all things. He's holy. Now, in that he's also loving and kind and benevolent, a father, a brother, a friend. I don't have, I can't put Jesus in my little box. I don't even attempt to any longer. He's bigger than that. Number 5. And this is one I think, or I would hope that you muse on. For what do we strive? What are we seeking after? The word strive, it's probably the highest form of seeking, the highest form of searching, the highest form of looking. What direction does your passion go? What direction does your energies go? What direction does your thinking go? And your pursuit, what direction is that? Do not work for food that spoils, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you, for on him God the Father has placed his seal of approval. This morning, I mused on this. I thought on this for Tony. And I was going to make a list of things that I strive for. And I came up with this 2 things that covers everything for me. I strive for peace and understanding. For me, that trumps everything. And peace doesn't mean to be without conflict. To have the peace that passes understanding in conflict. To be at peace when you're having open heart surgery. To be at peace when you're getting a new hip. To be at peace when you lose a loved one. To be at peace when things aren't going how we would hope they would be going. To be at peace when our families may be banging heads. To be at peace when a friend forsakes you. Be at peace. And the only way that that can happen is being at peace with God. Trusting him. Now the second part for me is understanding. There are 3 areas of cognitive abilities. Knowledge, it's good to know things. But if you just know things, well, the Bible says that puffs up. Wisdom is the right application of what you know. But Proverbs says the trump of these is understanding. And what are we to understand? That we know him. And the fellowship of his suffering. Being conformed to his likeness and his image. It's not understanding why people do the things that they do. It's not understanding why this sickness is upon me. It's understanding Christ. It's not about the bread. It's not about the fish. It's really not even about the miracle that I performed. It's about me. The Greek word for me, or I, is ego. Where we get our word egotistical. And there's only one egotistical, rightfully so, and that's Christ. Before Abraham was, ego eimi. That's what Christ said. I am. I am. So where are we going to get enough bread to feed all these people? Where are we going to get enough people to pull up all this carpet? Where are we going to get a machine big enough to move that safe? You know, this building belongs to Christ. It's not North River Christian Church's building. It belongs to Christ. And the matter of fact, the church, here we are. That's us. And we are to be followers of Christ. Let's be Andrews. Let's be bringing people to Christ. Not only people, Andrew even brought the solution to the problem. Here's a little basket of fish and bread this little kid has. Hey, buddy, give me my fish back. I wonder what the 12 loaves of, the 12 basketfuls, I wonder if they gave them to the kid. Could you imagine this little boy comes home with a wagon full of food? If he's an Italian, where'd you get that? Did you steal that? No, man, this guy, Jesus, I lent him my fish and my lunch, and he gave me 12 baskets. Anyway, that's all. I'm done.